Hello, this is Bambox and this is our second video in our Hotlap Tuesday series. This time the video is divided into two parts because it would be quite large. Rio Mini was a really simple track, no core was built and it already was 17 minutes long. We are going to race the D-Class Pontiac Firebird Trans Arm SD455 today. The car that is currently shown on screen. In this first of two parts I'm going to show you how you copy the build of the number one car on the leaderboard. Having the build and the tune of the number one car is not just useful for hot lapping. You can dominate your opponents in lobbies just the same with it. I picked Watkins Glen full as it's a nice long technical track and you can see many trans arms on there. We are going to watch the number one time of my mate GTZ Lucifer to read out some parts of the upgrades and tune. At the bottom you have this navigation bar, and if you navigate to the T and press A you open the telemetry. In the telemetry you can see a lot of details about what is happening with the car right now. On this first page you have general car values such as the horsepower output and the amount of gas being pressed. The values at the left are an interest for us because they tell us a lot about how the car is built. We can see how much speed it reaches at the longest straight. We can see if and how much boost there is, which tells us what kind of engine parts are in, and also see how the gears are tuned. We are going to watch the lap now and we are writing down as much information as possible into our shopping list. Okay, let's find out how much horsepower this car has by finding a spot where the maximum horsepower output is used. The horsepower value is changing continuously and you need to skip forward carefully to find the perfect spot. Here it is, 429 horsepower. This frame also gives us another information, the boost, which is 11.2. So some kind of supercharger must be in the car. We are now trying to find the highest torque value we can find. This here's the maximum value I can find, 422. Note that the torque is not a maximum value unlike the horsepower and boost, so it could be we are getting more when building the car later, but we know it absolutely shouldn't be lower than 422. At next we need to find how far the third gear goes. This and the maximum RPE with it tell us what kind of transmission is being used. I expect a stock transmission to be used, but comparing these values later we can verify it. So the RPM is at 6000.608 and the gear goes until 102 miles per hour. Now we try to see how much speed this car gets until the chicane. This way we can see how much downforce he used. Okay, 139 miles. This is basically everything we can get information from in the telemetry. There are also these other sections, but they don't tell us that much. We will now head to photo mode to scout car parts. At first I changed the photo settings, no shutter speed, and also be sure to have 0 aperture because both blurs the picture, and then increase the exposure so that you can see more. Okay. At the bottom you can see this grey plate, which is most likely a front spoiler for this car. And at the back this is a spoiler as well. The hood looks modified too, so let's write this down. At next we will take a look at the rims. To do this we zoom in. Oh, look at this! We can see the manufacturer logo and see the name. That's all we need. When we go a bit to the left, we can see the brakes. This dark gray object on the brake disc is the brake. These are not race brakes though, because race brakes are red. This seems to be either stock or street brakes. This surprises me a bit because most of the times you use race brakes. But who knows, maybe you have to race stock brakes on this car. At next we are going to find out if this car has a roll cage. If there is a roll cage built in, we will be able to find some cage structures in the inside. But as we cannot find any, there seems to be no roll cage. Now we look for the tire weight. The tires look very small on both front and rear, so I highly guess that there isn't any additional tire weight at all on this car. And finally we take a look at the rim size. You can see that the front rims are a lot larger than the rear tire rims, so likely maximum front size and no additional rear size for the rims. This is basically everything we can read out. If there is even more, I would appreciate it when you write it in the comments for everyone. This is not every part, but from the parts we know we can easily guess the remaining parts often. The car is, as mentioned earlier, the 1973 Trans Arm. You can find at Pontiac for just 26,000 credits. Okay, let's head to the upgrade shop. The default PI for this car is 331, so we have plenty of room modifying this car. We can already strike through the roll cage, small tires and race brakes, as we don't have to build them in at all. Just need to keep in mind that we weren't sure if it were stock or street brakes. A good thing to start is buying the aerodynamic parts. What we need is a front spoiler, a rear spoiler, and that's it. There's no hood available. Looks like the hood where we thought it's a modified one is actually the default one. That's okay. Let's install these rims now. We know they were from Ascent. Let's search for them in spot rims. This one looks good, but let's search the other sections as well. Specialized rims. They are here too, but they have the same rake and look different. Multi-piece, they don't have them here. It's the best when you also have a picture of these rims to compare, but I'm sure it were these sports rims. Even if not, it wouldn't make any difference, they all have the same rake, and that's the reason why you pick a specific rim. At next we will try to swap the engine, if there's any better one, and also build in a supercharger. We know that we need one to get that boost. Let's see these engines. Compared to the current one, the second one reduces the PI and has less weight. And the third one gets in way too much PI. We won't be able to return with D-Class with it. Here's the thing. The PI index prefers less weight. So we pick the engine with at least weight. Checking the drivetrains now. We could change to all-wheel drive, but believe me, never do that. The PI system hates all-wheel drive. Go with front or rear. In this case, you can only pick rear then. So we get many superchargers and similar stuff here. Always go with the centrifugal supercharger. Why? The PI system loves it. It adds the least PI relative to the others. At next we go to platform and handling. Full rake reduction. Do it everywhere where you can, because like I said, the PI system loves less rake. No roll cage, always do both anti-roll bars to race. Race springs. And as we wrote down, no brakes. Now to the drivetrain. Never install the clutch. It adds way too much PI, other parts are simply more useful. Install the transmission which gets the least PI index. This is not always the stock transmission because the PI system seems to be glitched there. But in this case it is. Leave drivetrain for stock now and always install race differential. Now let's build in the engine parts. We need a supercharger. Race puts in too much PI, so we picked the sport one. We got 426 horsepower now and 1 PI point remaining. Looks pretty close to what we want. Now we need to check every engine part we can install if any of them gets 3 more horsepower. Let's check them all through. Here it is, 429 horsepower, the torque is pretty close as well. But we got too much PI points now, but we are still missing the rim size. Run to full. We are still 1 point too high. You know what, I'm going to add some rear rim size as well. And now it works, now we got 400 PI points. With the first larger rear rim already. Most likely the number 1 car did this as well. It's simply hard to see if it's none or level 1 rim size. So when we look at our list, we see that we almost done everything on it. We will clear the remaining stuff next week when we test drive this car and set a lap later. Thanks for watching! I got overwhelmed from the views and reactions my first video got. I mean, 400 views are more than a good start. Thanks a lot to Macberg for featuring it in Forza's weekly review on forzamotorsport.net. That really helped me to spread my channel. Next week you will see part 2 of this, tuning the car and trying to drive a world record. I wanna say sorry to GT Lucifer. I actually didn't want to pick your time, but the track and course situation was absolutely perfect for this. See you next time.